In line with the 2023 United Nations Global Campaign, Unite to End Violence Against Women, 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, this year's KAICIID Women's Voices series concludes with a webinar on the elimination of violence against women and girls. Casting a spotlight on KAICIID-supported initiatives, the webinar brings together women of faith from diverse backgrounds and regions to present their initiatives and discuss issues around the role of faith and interreligious dialogue, the roles of men and boys, and education. It will explore grassroots efforts and the involvement of religious communities. The 2023 Unite campaign focused on the importance of financing different prevention strategies to stop violence from occurring in the first place under the title Unite, Invest to Prevent Violence Against Women and Girls. It called on citizens to show how much they care about ending violence against women and girls by sharing actions they are taking to create a world free from violence towards women and girls. I'm pleased to be in the great company of our amazing speakers, who I must let you know are all KAICIID fellows. Hiba Saleh, a full-time researcher and interpreter at the Media Outreach Center in Dar al-Ifta, Egypt. Reverend Ujaku Williams, minister of the Presbyterian Church of Nigeria and first female national officer at Assistant Secretary General in the Christian Association of Nigeria. Heidi Rautionma, a vocational teacher, religious education teacher, and a Lutheran pastor who provides training on inter-worldview issues, mainly for teachers, people of religious communities, and youth. Last but not least, our keynote speaker for our webinar today, Chinua Gurgal, is a spiritual and social worker for interreligious harmony, women empowerment, and child development initiatives. Kenyu, thank you so much for giving the keynote introduction today. The floor is yours.
Violence is something that we are facing around the world, but violence against women is another thing that we face, and which sometimes the voices are not really heard. Violence against women can be in form of physical violence, verbal violence, emotional violence, sexual violence, and socio-economic violence. We see it in form of sexual harassment, physical violence, domestic violence. They face violence sometimes at place of work also, and on roads also, because in India we see that sometimes. So I'm going to talk about violence in relation with a little bit relation with India and this region, the Asian region. If we want to define violence, violence against women encompasses a range of harmful actions and behavior. Thus, disappropriately affects women, including physical, sexual, psychological, and economic abuse. We have structures where women is expected to be submissive, and sometimes even the violence they receive in form of words, in form of emotions, in form of general, like if you see a simple slapping might not be considered violent, or using harsh words or using wrong words, sexual, like they're just sometimes ignored. Rape has been on high in India because in the past they were not really reported, but now since they have been reported, rapes have been on rise in India. Some of the states really show real high rape cases. Besides rape, there is another phenomena in India, that is acid attack. We see rising cases of acid attacks in India. Say somebody is proposing to a female and she refuses. So what they do is they throw acid on the girl. And even if you take action against the person, but a harm has already happened to the female. So the acid attack is another uh, violence that women of India have been facing, and maybe at other places also. But I'm just mentioning it because as we see here, and they really have to, because they really suffer after that. The whole of their life, they have to live with the effects of the acid that they have on their face, on their body. Any force is violence, any kind of a force. So although I was talking about religion, In religion, we are not supposed to be forcing women to do anything. In my book, I publish even uh, we are supposed to be respecting women. Like in in Hindu culture, women is supposed to be a goddess, but actually it doesn't happen. Actually, we are trying to force her to do things and like force her to serve the whole family. And the lower the poorer section of the women, they have to work hard at home and they have to and like slapping or hitting, like these things are because we have this patriarchy structure and the cultural norm always expect women to be some, even if she's slapped or she's hit somewhere, she's not supposed to revolt against that. So that's a pity. Education is something that can definitely uh, bring awareness in women. And it is important that awareness is not brought only in females, but also in males. So we always talk, it's not only that you teach your girls, but you teach your boys also to respect women, to respect girls around them. When a boy is born, it is supposed to be a very good thing. The woman who gives birth to a boy is like kind of very good for the family. But female, they are not really welcomed. So many a times we have seen rising cases of female being killed in the womb itself. Although we have law that you cannot get your gender tested before delivery, but people get it tested, and the worst part is the higher income group. We see the cases of female foeticide more in prosperous families than in the poorer families. One reason of female foeticide is dowry. At the time of marriage, a parent is supposed to give lot of money to the female. So to avoid that, they don't want to be a female to be born. That is one reason of female feticide. Another is at the time of death, a son is supposed to be cremating the parents. So imagine a family where you have only girls. So you'll be giving dowry, lot of dowry, and the female is of she'll be married, going to the other house. She cannot cremate the parents. So that is dowry is, and the consequences of dowry is harassment. If the female doesn't get dowry when she is married, she's not always, but she is harassed. Once upon a time, there were cases of burning because of if the female doesn't get dowry. Sometimes even the uh, consent of women is not taken before getting her married. Like it's assumed wherever parents marry the female, she'll just accept it. The economic crisis that women face forces many female to take up prostitution to fulfill their needs, and sometimes they're even forced into prostitution. Here, I would also like to mention one thing that even the health sometimes, as, not only in the when they are a prostitute, but even a girl child at home is not given enough food as the male child is given at home. So the health problem that we face, like I personally consider that also to be a form of violence that females face because of not giving sufficient food. Sexual violence is alarming. Sexual violence in form of rape, in form of torture, in form of verbal abuses, in form of like even when they are going in buses or trains, they are sometimes touched at the wrong parts, and that is disturbing. And it's in some of the cities it's alarming. Even the small girls, the school-going girls, the small kids, sometimes there have been cases of sexual violence with real small girls, where they're sometimes not even aware of what is going to happen to them, like drivers either sexually harassing them or even raping them. So the such cases, I'm being very open, but these are the things that hurt me and that disturb me.
KAICIID has been a pioneer in women's empowerment through the use of dialogue as a vehicle for empowerment and growth, as well as for social cohesion, mutual understanding, and harmonious coexistence. And KAICIID contributes actively in the implementation process of Sustainable Development Goal 5 on gender equality. And in the next years, in close cooperation with partners, we'll also advocate promoting a strong narrative about women faith leaders by developing a comprehensive worldwide women's interreligious dialogue network, which will provide a safe environment and an arena for networking and capacity development. Through regional programs, which some of you might be acquainted with, KAICIID and KAICIID's partners build bridges among the societies by promoting dialogue and women's empowerment activities. For example, in the Arab region, KAICIID supports programs like C4 Dialogue, empowering women's capacity to engage in policy discussions and providing tools for conflict resolutions and how to lead advocacy campaigns. Participants in a C4 Dialogue program got inspired and initiated their own projects in their own local communities. I can give you an example. Some participants from Lebanon started a 3-month project targeting at university students, both men and women, from different sects in 4 Lebanese governorates to participate in training workshops and meetings with religious leaders on gender exploring and discussing the social roles of women and men, the concept of dialogue, and the concept of conflict resolution. Now let's travel to Sudan, where songs of war became songs of peace. KAICIID conducted a training workshop where 22 Hakamat traditional female singers from 18 locations around Sudan participated. Hakamat songs usually revolve around warrior chants, dwell on themes such as honor, bravery, and cowardice, and are often considered to encourage conflict. In a country where women have significant influence within their communities, the workshop aimed to encourage the Hakamat to moderate the songs with messages of peace rather than incitement, at the same time seeking to develop a culture of tolerance and dialogue. On day 2 of the workshop, participants produced 2 songs calling for peace and coexistence, underlining their agreement that the Hakama and local leaders could mobilize their communities to contribute to peace building and hate speech prevention. Now we are going to Nigeria. In order to increase the number of women active in peace building to prevent conflict in Nigeria, KAICIID, through Interfaith Dialogue Forum for Peace, collaborated with the Interfaith Mediation Center on a project to promote dialogue tools to women's groups in 6 states from the South region in the country. As part of their project, 70 trained women are qualified as trainers to improve the skills of their communities in settling civil disputes and achieving solutions through dialogue. Last but not least, KAICIID International Fellows Program works hard on achieving gender balance through the selection of fellows and encourages the implementation of projects that promote the gender equality and the advancement of a culture of peace. And we should not forget the Women's Voices series of webinars, which started in 2022 and covers several thematic areas which affect women's lives all over the world. It is time to introduce you to our first speaker, Hiba Saleh, a full-time researcher and interpreter at the Media Outreach Center in Dar al-Ifta, Egypt.
Thank you for granting me this opportunity to join you today and talk about a very special, important topic, which is eliminating or countering violence against women. First of all, I would like to praise Kinoa's word, and I will go from what she did about teaching men and women about women issues. Actually, I see that erasing or eliminating violence against women, it is not a new issue that we should talk about. It is a very, very old issue. And let me give you a hint about the core reasons. Since I'm living in the Arab region, and I have the honor to initiate two important initiatives with KAICIID. The first one is Women's Voice for Peace. This is my main initiative. And the second was Noon, or the Arabic letter Noon, referring to women in Arabic language, which is N in English. And this was my second initiative when I was participating in the first batch of She for Dialogue, a very important program that KAICIID present to women in the Arab region in order to raise awareness and bring together women and activists working in this field. So to be or to go in a logical way, number one, we can talk about reasons from the Arab region that we have misunderstanding about that which is religious and that which is tradition. In the Arab region, we have traditions and customs that most people treat them as a religious text. And here comes the dilemma, here comes the problem. We need to give more focus to differentiating between what is religious and what is social traditions. The second issue is that when we raise awareness, we need to talk to both men and women, boys and girls. And this is part of the effective and the perfect ways to resolve the situation. The second is we have to reach out to the people in general, in public. It's good to have conferences and meetings talking about the issue, but we have to get out and overcome this closed doors. We should stop talking behind closed doors and go out to the simple people who are really suffering. And this is what I did through my initiative, Women's Voice for Peace. In a nutshell, Women's Voice for Peace is a personal initiative dedicated to breaking the stereotypes that impose violence against women in the Arab region. And by violence, I mean the physical violence, verbal violence, and finally, moral violence. Physical violence, as we see that the rising or the soaring numbers and cases that have been traced recently in the Arab region and in Egypt as well, against women and girls, especially the youth at university, or this category of youth at university, and adolescent categories also. And let me say that the verbal violence, which is part of the culture, as women in the Arab region somehow are treated as inferior to men. So, as a woman living at home, either with your husband, your brother, your father, the stigma in the Arab region is that women are inferior to men, and this is the second issue. The moral violence is that if a man does not practice physical or verbal violence, but he treats the woman as a doll or as if she is not seen in the public sphere. Let me give you an example. Women can face problems if she is, for example, pregnant or is about to get married. Some places for work does not accept women because you will get engaged and be busy with your baby. You will not give us part of your time. So they are rejected and declined for being accepted by certain jobs, for example. I deem this is a sort or a form of violence. When it comes to dialogue, and by dialogue, I mean how to engage women in having a voice in the public sphere. And this is what I did through She for Dialogue initiative. And I think I have two photos to share with our audience today. I have to start from the grassroots. I went to the female preachers at Al Azhar institution in Egypt. And this photo is the workshop, the first workshop I held with the female preachers at Al-Azhar, since I wanted to raise awareness that females should go to or step outside the bubble of talking to themselves. The stigma at Al-Azhar, or what is going on, is that women as preachers or researchers are only dedicating their work to only women. But she cannot go and engage issues like violence against women or engaging what is going on in the world around them. So this was the first workshop in a series. And then I went to the church, the Evangelical Church in Egypt. I cooperate with Reverend Taid Salah since 2019 and met the female preachers as well, or the female workers in the church. And we had a series of workshops regulating together what is or spotting the traditions that hinder them from going further in the society and having a voice heard in this. And they were, by the way, they were very happy because one of them told me, it's the first time I see someone interested in getting my voice reaching out behind the door of the church. And was an iconic uh, sentence or iconic phrase during the series of the workshops. We are living in an age of social media. We are living in the age of technology and artificial intelligence. And as activists or women activists working in this field, we have to engage this IT technology and encounter the bad or encountering the crooked thinking about women and their status in the society with more moderate and balanced discourse. So, as if we have discourse against discourse. In order for the good discourse to stay or keep the bad ones away from our way, we have to start from social media because it is a double-edged weapon, actually. If we can use it properly, it will serve our goal and help us raise awareness, at least for the category of the Generation Z, as we call them, or the generation of the millennium. This was my participation in a nutshell, and I'm so happy to be part of KAICIID Fellows Network for both working with Women Voice for Peace and for the great program She for Dialogue, which I recommend every female activist in this field to join if she can and if she has the time. Thank you.
Empower was a project that was done in 4 different countries, 3 continents, and 3 religions. We all both met, and we realized, although being from different religion, from being from different continents, and from being different countries, we somewhere face the same kind of problems. So we came together at that time, and in whole of 2020, we developed the project together. The objective of the project was to promote United Nations Development Goals number 5, namely bring gender equality, confront issues affecting gender equality such as education and religion in 4 cities, identify factors impending peace and harmony in 4 cities in 3 continents, and to provide young people. This is how we work together to provide young people of faith and other youth that may be interested in getting interfaith and intercultural tools for preventing and eliminating discrimination, xenophobia, and hate speech, for building new inclusive working places. And we all, with the same approach, implemented project. We had webinars, we had virtual, we had actual seminars also with the youth, where we practiced interreligious dialogue. We talked about women issues. We even educated not only the girls but also the boys on how women related issues can be tackled and how do we move forward on IRD. there is a difference between what religions talks about women and what the social practices are. So in all the four countries, in the different religions, how women can be empowered, how gender equality can be brought about, and what are the kind of places, what are the kind of problems that we are facing. And these are the questions that we answer: how to equip, encourage, and empower and mentor and support women to take a leadership role. I implemented the project in India with schoolgirls, because India is a large populated country. So I implemented that in India. I organized a webinar in India, two webinars, in fact, in India from different, because India is a vast country also. So having speakers from different religions and school and college children to mainly educate. It was mainly the education part that we were focusing on.
I'm a KAICIID fellow of a 2020 cohort, and it's been an amazing journey this 3 years, and it's been so amazing. KAICIID actually gave me a lot of platform and opportunity to network, especially with other religious leaders and around the world. Currently, I am the national president of a women wing of Christian Council of Nigeria, as well as the first female assistant general secretary in CAN, like it was said. That has actually given me opportunity to ride on the issues regarding violence against women and girls. I've coordinated projects, but for the purpose of this webinar, I'm going to be concentrating basically on a spotlight initiative that we started since 2019. 2018 is a spotlight initiative on ending violence against women and girls, which we actually started under the platform of the Christian Council of Nigeria. The women actually being the voices that has carried this project all over Nigeria, because when it started, actually, it wasn't very loud. It was as if there was just meetings upon meetings, coming together, drink tea and go, and things like that. Nothing much was happening until the women took it as a project, as something we need to run, as something we need to take down to the grassroots, and we started. Actually, the focus of this spotlight is on SDG 5, which is actually to eliminate, eliminate sexual and gender-based violence, harmful practices, and all aspects of sexual reproductive health and rights. We started this project, and because of Nigeria being a very high populous nation, being in one state, you may not, if you focus everywhere, you may not be able to cover as much as you should. So the focus we had when we started initially was we focused on few states, focused on 6 states. And actually what motivated this, because there was a projection and a kind of statistics that came from the United Nations, and it focused, there was spotlight on states that missed more attention. And there were about 6 states: Adamawa, Ebonyi, Cross River, Sokoto, Lagos, and then the federal capital, which is the federal capital, the capital of Nigeria. Now, this focus was actually to look at what gender-based violence is and what it's not, because oftentimes it's been misinterpreted that when you talk about GBV, many people think you're just talking about violence against women, and that's not the fact. We needed people to know that it's not just about women. It's about the gender. It's about who is being discriminated. It's about who is being abused. So when we talk about the gender here, we needed to take down to the grassroots what gender-based violence means. And it means that it is any form of violence that is meted on anybody, that it is done because of your gender. It could be male, it could be female. I like what Kenu did when she was presenting. And we try to identify that this gender-based violence undermines the health, the dignity, the security of women, because women are actually basically the vulnerable one. But that is not actually taking away the fact that men and boys are being abused on a daily basis, even here in Nigeria. So we needed to raise our voice. We followed the data that was released that 1 in 3 women in Nigeria actually experience sexual gender-based violence. Child marriage is about 43.5. Female genital mutilation, which now we call it, some people call it female genital cutting, is about 18.4. These are the forms of violence. Sexual, 1 in 4 girls experience sexual violence in Nigeria. 1 in 6 girls experience emotional violence in Nigeria. These are the data that actually we had to run with. Now, what we do as women leaders, when we talk about issues of end violence against women and girls, we saw ourselves as people who are on a mission. It was like a mission. The mission is to build generations of transformational female leaders. We are building women leaders from all over the nation who will rise to educate, rise to inspire, rise to transform, and through advocacy, through sensitization, through awareness creation, through training, and through empowerment. That is our focus, and that is what we've been doing consistently over these years. We do that through the training we gather. We do, this is a workshop that we had in Kaduna. We work together with the Form 1. Form 1 is what we call the Federation of Muslim Women Association of Nigeria, and we are the Christian Council of Nigeria Women Wing. So it's a collaboration. We come together to train women, to educate women. We do that. We have advocacy, what we call our TIB. TIB is what we call Thursdays in Black. It is, for me and other of my women in Nigeria, we join the World Council of Churches in the advocacy against violence, and we wear black every Thursday. The black here signifies resistance, resilience. It signifies solidarity, empathy. That is what we do. The black color is, because black color is resist and is very resilient. So every Thursday we wear black, we put on our pin, and we take the message down to say we are wearing black towards the end of violence, towards the end of rape in the world and in the nation. And so it is a campaign that we have been very consistent, and we've been very intentional about it. These are some of the women of the Christian Council of Nigeria. We go on a street walk, we go on advocacy, we go on training, but you can't catch me on a Thursday without my pin. You can't catch me on a Thursday without my black. It is a message we try to pass. And this message we have also taken to this workshop we had in Ibadan. It's in the Southwest. These are Muslim brothers, sisters, and brothers, Muslim sisters coming together with the same pin. These are Thursday's event. These are also another rally in Lagos. On the streets, we go with paper, we sensitize, and we talk to people. We do a lot of training. These are one of our trainings that we also organize in Abuja. And this was a summary of that training. This training was actually very important because we're looking at the human rights, women and human rights training. We needed to train women on the Maputo Protocol and some of the rights and conventions and some of the treaties that are there for women to use. We talked about CEDAW and all that. And at the end of the day, we challenge ourselves. We are saying doing nothing changes nothing. So let's change the story. So if you sit down without doing anything, you can change nothing. So you have to do something to change the story. So in our training, we try to explore the forms of violence against women and girls. We look at child marriage, female genital mutilation or cutting, like I said. We look at different physical form of violence, sexual, cultural, harmful practices, like I mentioned earlier, socio-economic violence, like lack of opportunities, and child abandonment, especially when it has to do with our children, both girls and boys. We also try to look at, identify this violence against children, especially the girls, the types that are being meted out. These are the things we take down when we go to the grassroots. And we try to also astray where this violence occur. What are the common places? Because of time, I couldn't come with some of the pictorials. And we're able to summarize that it happens anywhere, in private settings, your homes. In fact, oftentimes it is not the visitors, it's not the strangers. It is mostly the inner, those who are in the house, those who are familiar with these victims. They are the ones that perpetrate this violence. So in private settings like homes, in public settings like schools, market, public places, and all that. In Nigeria, in the displaced persons camps, if you visit the IDP camps, you will see young children underage who are already pregnant and so many things happening there. So these are the areas, armed conflict, where an area of wars and conflict, you see that violence against women and girls is usually in the increase. And in what we do, we've been working on different case studies. I want to, as I summarize, bring one case study that was very, very important to us because we worked with the government. We tried to be part of the voices that were raised through social media and other medium. And eventually justice came, but even though it did not come complete, but justice came somehow. So many cases are there, but this story is very significant. It's very important to us. We are very passionate about this story because of how we were involved in it. Time will not fail me to tell another story. This story is about a young girl. You may have read it, or if you Google it, you read the story. A young girl who is 13 years, her name is Ochanya. She's from Benue State. All Ochanya wanted to do was to go to school. Ochanya wanted to go to school, but unfortunately, Ochanya could not go to school. Why? Because the only primary school that is that she can go to, which is just a stone throw to her house, was shut down. That's it. It was not working anymore. So what did she do? The only option she has is to go miles, like more than 3.5 kilometers, to access education. But she couldn't do that because she wasn't from a very comfortable home. So the only option was to go to live with her mother's sister. And there, she met the monsters. These are the monsters. What will teach us is that we try to shame the perpetrators and protect the victim. In this slide, you will not see Ochanya picture because she was the victim. We try to tell people what we do is that perpetrators are the ones to be shamed and the victims are the ones to be protected. As women, as religious leaders, as people of faith, when you see some information that is being shared on the social media, you ask yourself, why would I share this message? Who am I going to expose more? If there's anybody to expose, it is the perpetrators and not the victim. So these were the monsters that took turn to rape Ochanya until she died. Because she died, she was able to tell her story. She was able to tell her story. Right from age 8, the cousin started sleeping with her. The father joined, and they took turn to rape her until she was so sexually molested that she got VVF, which is called vesico-vaginal fistula. And this led to her death. It was a terrible death. I was there at the hospital in Boko. I was among the team that was sent by the by UNICEF when we were doing the campaign on ending violence against women and girls. But by the time we got there, she had already died, but she had already opened up to FIDA, the Federation of Female Lawyers, and gave them this story of how her story started and how she was being serially raped by these two. They ran away, but eventually the man was caught. But the son, even as I'm talking, has not been found. He has been at large. And anytime he's around, or anytime he's cited, he will be brought to book. But the father was jailed anyway. So now, during the lockdown in 2020, we saw many cases like that. Time will fail me to talk about it, where women and girls were serially abused, discriminated emotionally, physically, sexually, and otherwise. What do we do as a roundup? We sensitize communities on gender-based violence, violence against women and girls, violence against children, related issues. We conduct what we call multi-religious seminars, specifically targeting men from different religions and including topics that they will hear. Because when we do this thing, we talk to people. There is a program we are starting from next year. We are calling it Positive Masculinity, because we want to raise men who will be positive in their masculinity, to add to what we are doing already. We provide shelter and counseling service to victims of violence at existing religious studies. Some places already have places we help them to just get stable a lot before they start their life. We provide information and we direct survivors and families where to seek help. Some of these people, they do not know where to seek help. They do not know where to go to. So it is our work to help them assess the help that they need. And we encourage religious leaders to utilize their position as community leaders to help shape the conversation of issues concerning violence against women and girls. And then we provide victims with a safe environment to speak out. Yes, there is a slogan we have. If you see something, say something and do something. That is our slogan everywhere. So we encourage victims to speak out, because the culture of silence has so existed that the victims, they don't speak. So we do encourage you. We expand the circle of protection, and we try to tell you when a woman tell you I'm going through, because religious, for us who are Christians, we try to use religion to deceive a lot of people, to tell them, no, you don't have to divorce because you're a Christian, you have to stay back in the marriage. So we do that. We identify and collaborate with sexual violence referral centers, and this information is widely publicized in the congregation and in the women group so that they will know. We also develop the skill of first responders. We want to be the first responder so that when you confess, we don't cajole you, we help you to come out of the situation. We identify negative religious norms and practices that support violence against women. We just finished a workshop in Abuja, and we took time to look at the scriptures, we identify scriptural texts that support violence against women and interpret it correctly, because people misinterpret the scripture and give it a different meaning entirely and use it to perpetrate this violence. So we identify such scriptures, but we give it the right interpretation that it deserves. So that is the work we do. We just finished rounded up the 16 days activism, and in all the 36 states in the nation, we had women going for advocacy, workshop, training, rally. So many activities were rounded up as we rounded up the 16 days. This is one of them in Bauchi and one other state. There are so many of the pictures and videos I had already shared with Lizzie, and that is what we do, because we are ready to say no to violence against women and girls. And we are not ending, we are not closing our mouth. When we see something, we will say something. And when we say something, we don't just sit down, we will do something. That is our watchword. Thank you.
Everyone working in their place on this issue, I think we share the same dilemmas, or I think we share the same thing, which is how to raise awareness. As I said in my word, that we have to step outside our closed doors, the doors of lectures, the doors of classes, the doors of webinars, and go to the simple people. In my opinion, and I think the panelists will agree with me, is that we should reach to the uneducated people and start educating them, especially women who didn't have the chance to receive formal or even informal education in governmental schools or whatsoever. Illiterate women is the bomb that might one day will explode and let us all go in the oblivion due to the ignorance. So I think we should start from the scratch, from the uneducated people, and try to teach them about their rights. For example, let me give me an example. In some tribes or in some societies, some women or some families consider that a husband hitting his wife is a sign of manhood and a sign of control. If he doesn't beat his wife, or if he doesn't beat the woman under his guardianship, it means that he is a weak man. And here comes the role of educating men about the true meaning of what is manhood and what is, we call it in the Quran, the qawama, how men should take care of women, as mentioned in the Holy Scripture, the Quran, and of course the Bible. So I think teaching men or boys about the rights of women is the core point here. Education, in the literal meaning of education, which means going to school, because so many girls are deprived the right to education based on the tradition that finally a girl or a woman would get married and take care of her husband and children, so she doesn't need education anymore. And this is a reflection of the acceptance of violence that some women agree to live and continue her marital life because she has children and she should take care of them, and the husband does not provide for the family. I should take care of everything and accept every humiliation and violence imposed upon her by the husband or brother or sister, whatsoever man taking care of her. So I think we are rotating about the idea of education, raising awareness, and to start with the uneducated categories in the society, even by a word. We have a tradition in the Quran that a word can save a soul from hellfire, can save a soul from ignorance, can save a soul from violence. So it is the idea of giving or nourishing people with the right education in a way that let them feel they are a human being who has feelings, who has rights, which are guaranteed by the society, by the law, and even by religion. This is my own perspective about the three questions.
The education that Hiba talked about, that is very important, and especially the schools and the colleges. I have personally approached schools, and if the educating boys, because awareness has to be created in boys and men to treat women equally and to be non-violent towards women. And education not only in schools but also at home. If we encourage our boys not to hit women, not to be violent towards women, especially in Indian context, there is this problem of dowry and female feticide. So if we give equal importance when a girl is born, if the men starts giving equal importance to a girl child and not ask for dowry, that would be really great. Another thing that you talked about is the role of religious leaders and the role of places of worship. Truly speaking, in our religious places, very few religious leaders and very few places of worship, they talk about gender equality, or they talk about women's health issues, or they talk about treating being non-violent towards women. So if these words come out, because most of the people, they follow some religion or the other, and whatever is been said from a place of worship, from a religious leader's mouth, they are really taken. That is sometimes that becomes very close to the heart of people. So if these kind of words, I was like talking to a few temples, that if you have a section, we hardly see, like we have these sections where food is served to people, and where there we have section at our religious places where medicines are also given. But educating from a place of worship through religious leaders about gender equality can be really helpful. Like I actually worked on it, the religion and women empowerment. So if we talk about, and this is like, if we go to our scriptures, if we go to our text, if we go to the original teachings of religion, they give equal rights to women, most of the religion. So if those teachings can come out through the from the mouth, from the places of worship, that can be, and it will, like especially in a country like India where large population go to temples, mosques, church, gurudwaras. So that would be really a very encouraging step toward it.
Again, I will say that some of the answers to the few questions you asked have been already answered by my two beautiful sisters. Gender inequality and discrimination for me are the root causes of violence against women in Nigeria. Okay, where there is a preference to the sex of your child from birth, okay? if the average Nigerian woman who is not able to have a male child already feels insecure, already feels I have not done what I'm supposed to do, already feels inferior among the other women because you do not have a male child. So somehow there is a preference. There's a mark to say, oh, this sex or this gender is preferred to the other one. So this is where the problem is. So the men have this superior attitude because you feel you're more superior than the others. So what do we do when we talk about harnessing women, boys, and girls together? What we try to teach ourselves and the women around us and the men and the leaders is that there has to be this equality, openness, acceptance. This discrimination against women has to end because they are the root cause. There's a structure of what we call power imbalance, between women and men. It has been existing over the years. It's like it cuts across all the communities in Nigeria because there's a feeling of superiority. So that's, once it's handled, we'll be able to give the men the latitude to know that, yes, we are together. We are, even as the Bible states, we are like laborers together in God's vineyard. So it means that education has to start from home. We need to make our men realize their role because men and boys will have a role. Now, that is where we'll talk about genderized role in the home, like mothers. When you differentiate roles in the home, you are building monsters. A young man in the home already knows that I cannot go to the kitchen because I'm a man. As I'm a young boy, you're growing with that. So in the future, this affects his orientation. It affects the way he treats his children, his sisters. It will affect definitely the way he would treat the wife in the future. So we have to domesticate them from home to know that we are all the same. So if the girl can wash the dishes, the boy can wash the dishes. If the boy can do this, the girl can do that. So it is not, this is meant for the boy and this is meant for the girl. Again, in the awareness, like the question someone asked, oftentimes there are discouragements out there. From where I'm coming from, some of the discouragement come when we don't see the justice system is not working. When perpetrators are not brought to book, it makes violence to increase more. So we have to keep lending our voice so that those who are perpetrators of this violence, they face the full wrath of the law. Because when this don't happen, it keeps increasing the violence against women and girls. And finally, the religious setting. Violence against women is not just about physical violence. There are emotional violence that are more distress, that are more dangerous than physical violence. It is deep. It reduces you. It makes you feel worthless. It makes you feel you're not who you're supposed to be. It has led so many people to untimely death, suicide, depression, and all that. So we also try as much as possible to tell religious leaders to give women opportunity to be at the table of discussion. I tell you here, a lot of exclusion. Women are not anywhere close. So we are pushing to make sure that women are part of the system because as religious leaders, we should be a mirror to the society. So involving women and making women part of decision, making women taking leadership, will be able to have the moral justification to tell the government to do the same thing. Thank you very much.
I believe that a smile is a language that everyone can understand. And even without uttering a word, I can give the impression that I love this person or I appreciate your effort. And this can start in the family. In my opinion, peace and love starts within the family or from the family. If the family in the first place is already established on love and mutual understanding, the fruit of this family will be stable and talented leaders in the society and knowing the rights and duties of everyone around them. So I think a smile is the language is that everyone can understand. So in our tough times and in such times when the world is going insane, a child at home does not need his mother to be strong all the time, but needs that his mother and father smiles all the time. So I think keep smiling when you're raising your children. Keep smiling when you are taking care of your duties inside the family.
Have conviction and be true to yourself and be true to others. Change yourself and try and bring a change around. And for women, one thing I really believe in, be yourself. The more conviction you have about yourself and the more truly you present yourself, it brings a change around. Women is powerful in itself. She just has to realize her power. So once she realizes her power, she knows she can change and she will cannot be suppressed if she knows her power. You don't have to be equal to men uh, to be to be sustainable and to be you just be yourself.
I do not know how powerful this message is, but I want to say that gender-based violence is a human right violation. And because it's a human right violation, I want to call my sisters, wherever you are in the whole world, we need to rise against any form of human rights violation. Because the change we desire must start with us. If I want change, I have to change first. So it's important I look deep inside me, my activities, my actions and inactions, and be that change that I desire. Wherever you are, remember you are beautiful. You are well created. You are special and you have something to offer. Let someone not bring you down. No way. You have something to offer. If there is no space for you on that table, take your seat along with you and go to the table and be part of the conversation because indeed you have something to offer. Let no one bring you down. We all have been created in the image of God to offer something to the humanity, to bring a change. So be that change that you desire. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank all the speakers and all the attendees that would like to be with us this afternoon and give us the chance to make these projects heard and spread the word for the impact of this project, the impact of these projects on the society, on the local communities, on the girls' lives, and on the daughters of these girls, of those who are girls today. I would like to thank all of you for being with us today. I really appreciate your presence here. I hope that you learned a lot of new things, and I hope that you will implement or participate in similar activities either now or in the future.